think that that fear is partly about death. For me, often it's about somebody who's not here anymore, even though I may never say that in a piece. I'm pretty much an existential thinker. I really think that in everything we do, we're encountering loss, and we're encountering absence of predictable meaning, and that that's a terror that is necessary. I often say that the work that I do is to try to keep complex and multiple ideas happening simultaneously, which is interesting for a ukulele playing tap dancer to say. There's something about the defiance of authority, the work of the step. There's something resistant.
Every project seems to generate at least one more project because there are things that I want to do better, or things that could be done more creatively, or something that could be done in ways that we haven't tried before. For me, I think it's not something that happens alone in my head. So, is that creative process? I'm not sure.
I do have one thing that underlies the work beyond, I guess, I'm pretty fascinated with people in action. Not necessarily dance action, but we sit in relationship, we talk in a relationship, we space out and stare at things inappropriately or appropriately, and we do that next to something else. There's a whole juxtaposition of human behavior that happens in space and time. What I do is kind of a translation, abstractly, metaphorically, taking what it is that I see and kind of ingesting it and looking for a kinetic response. That sounds grander than just kind of being caught by how somebody's walking down the street, but that's basically what I do. Like many choreographers, I started as a dancer, and then at a certain point, I stepped out and I got really fascinated with what that whole visual picture was in front of me, not just what I was sensing myself. Most of us in a creative practice are magpies of some sort. We just kind of see the shiny bits of experience. And then I think we train ourselves to figure out not only what it is, but what the field it is sitting in consists of. There really is this sense of we are narrative creatures. We're looking for a storyness to things, even if it's not a literal story.
About 15, 20 years ago, I would every night, for about a 4-year period, I would wake up in a complete drenched sweat, completely drenched, because I had these horrible nightmares. And they were very visually vivid, and I can't even remember what they were about. What I've done since then is visually, and also acoustically too, sonically, whatever the project is, whether it's Rite of Spring or it's Harry Partch's Oedipus or whatever it is, a new opera. I'm just trying to use that vehicle, that script, that opera, that music, whatever, to put that set of nightmares on stage. I struggle with everything. The whole process is excruciating for me. And people are like, "Well, Bob, you must love it." I'm like, no, I'm compelled to do it. I don't think you choose it. I think it chooses you.
A major part of my work is anxiety. I think I make things out of a sense of things being pretty out of control a lot of the time. Not in a bad way, but just that sort of life unfolds in this very heavy-duty way where you have some choices, but they're pretty limited, and sort of go with that. So I think a lot of my work has been about dealing with, I would say, limitations of one's work. A lot of the art that I respond to the most is fairly philosophical and conceptual, and at the same time it's really sensory. So I like that kind of juxtaposition of art that evokes questions or things that are not determinate yet, but does it in a way that has a lot of intensity about it. I've been interested in natural history for, I guess, my entire life, really. I just started reading a huge amount of evolutionary biology, and I don't think I exactly have a romantic view of nature, but it just blows me away. I mean, it's like that quality of the sublime, I guess, experientially, that I'm just extremely drawn to. I love scientific drawings and that way of, probing something that's alive. It's not just because it's pretty, it's because there are things that are going on in there are processes that are not seeable. I like the fact that so much of it is not stuff you can actually directly observe. Anything in natural history has all of these different layers of knowledge, really.
When I was in high school, I got really interested in trying to draw the figure. And as I started to draw the figure, I realized, I was drawn to certain poses. I felt like we're communicating a certain idea. It wasn't just to show the articulation of this certain hand a certain way. I wanted this dynamic pose. Because I was kind of in the middle of this thoughts about religion, I thought about the pose of the crucifixion. Christianity influences a lot of our history and our culture, so it's a hard thought experiment. But my idea was, if that did not exist, and you just had this image, someone with their arms out, I built down to just this simple sea creature that was just reaching for food or reacting to light or sound. I kind of go up and down between these feelings and these metaphors. This really means something. It really connects to an idea, and maybe we're all little animals just primitively reacting to these little stimuli around us. that relates to me making work that is representative of who I am and how I look at the world. So, somewhat detached, observing forces and things playing out. I still always feel like I'm this naive scientist, building this little world, dealing with light and physics, and seeing what would happen in these environments.
It's thinking, really, that interests me, and I suppose that's the connection with philosophy. It's about the knowledge of humanity, and the act of making art is not isolated from the act of thinking, not just in practical, technical terms, but on the human condition.
I am an anxiety-ridden individual. I am positive that every show I'm going to do is going to be a complete failure, and that they're finally going to find me out once and for all for being the no-talent fraud that I am. And thankfully, sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm right. Yeah.
It's absurd what I do. I mean, I have the luxury of dedicating my life to art, but really it's the absurdity of it that drives me. Matched with my obsessive compulsive nature, cutting paper to the degree that I do is absurd, but I like the idea that it's absurd on the same level that a monk is making a sand mandala. It's living. This is sort of a ritual. It's something I have to do. I wouldn't be a happy person if I were not fulfilling these urges that I have. I'm dyslexic, and a lot of artists are dyslexic, come to find out. I believe that there's something going on with my brain, separating left and right hemispheres as I go, that make me very sensitive or very attracted to paradox. I can ride a paradox for a long time. It's sort of a, I don't know, at home, it's sort of a type of meditation.
I've been always fascinated with computers. That was something that I always loved to tinker with, loved to play with. I always loved to change things and alter things. I'm not entirely sure if I could put a finger on what exactly it is that brings me back to them, but I think part of it is certainly this notion of creating something that's, at least on some very basic level, sentient, something that's capable of participating intelligently in this life. And I think by doing so, I'm somehow bestowing some of my own soul, I guess, into this creative technology. My interest is predominantly in technology through the arts that actually is somehow malleable. So in other words, an art piece that never sounds the same, just by your presence, you alter the very essence of that art piece, because that art piece has ability to perceive your presence, to somehow interact with you on an intelligent level. And of course, right now, since we're still in very early stages of developing true artificial intelligence, what I mean by intelligence in this context is often very primordial, very simple. But then the complexity usually arises from human interaction with it.
I don't have a grand vision, but I have elements. It's to be able to warp time and space, to be able to work with somebody who's in a different time zone, to be able to be at home with people to some degree, even if they're not at home, or I'm not home. There's a lot of wonder in technology, and this has to do with poetics. And so one of the other things that really matters in this vision is that the poetics of experience, no matter whether they're technologically mediated or not, matter as much as the actual informational content. The Balinese have a saying that art is anything to get away with, and so in that sense I'm an artist.
We should learn from artists more about freeing our minds a little bit. I think that is a tremendous advantage that artists they have over scientists. They are a little bit more free-minded. Sometimes we're a little biased. Like for example, there is a biological problem in the cell and we have a tendency to see it from a certain angle.
I'm an untouchable, and my cast was a creative class. We played the drum, and the drum was a semiotic text for the villages that we were part of, and as a result, that was also part of our pollution and why we were ostracized. For me to pursue a creative profession, a creative path, was really embracing again that kind of discrimination. So it was not something that could be done lightly. My cast was developed in the 13th century, and I think back to those ancestors that I had who were not going to be free in any way, shape, or form, and neither were their immediate descendants. So where they may have been living in this constraint, they knew there's a whisper of freedom somewhere, so I'm going to keep going. The possibility of vision, the possibility of being able to think outside of this box that we might currently be in, to trick the devil and go out on the other end, that can only happen when we're in the flow of creativity.